It's AU Day today. Good evening and welcome to Business Live, the holiday edition of the program. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji Riafe. Ahead in this evening's edition, as Ghana marks the 54th anniversary of the African Union, French Ambassador, His Excellency Francois Pouyoulard, is urging African economies to fast-track efforts at removing all trade barriers to promote intra-African trading. Meanwhile, Ghana Investment Promotion Center calls for re-examination of trade relations between Ghana and South Africa to boost level of trade activities among the two countries. And also in this bulletin, former President Kufuor urges global investors to troop to Ghana, describing the country as strategically positioned to afford them easy access to the entire African market. These and others all in this evening's edition of the program. Don't go away. We're coming back with the details shortly.
Business Live today.
Many thanks today for joining me on the special edition of the Business Live program, which is the Holiday AU Day edition. Now, coming up, the French Ambassador to Ghana, His Excellency Francois Pouyoulard, is calling on African economies to fast-track efforts at removing trade barriers to promote intra-African trading. Speaking at a conference to mark the 54th AU anniversary at his residency in Accra, His Excellency Francois Pouyoulard charged African economies to urgently respond and adapt to the changing nature of trade across sub-regional markets. Here's more in this report.
Existing records show the level of trade among Africans themselves remain woefully inadequate, as many countries in Africa rather trade with the Western world and Asia, among others. The conference was attended by members of the diplomatic corps as well as 70 business executives from corporate Ghana and other African countries. French Ambassador to Ghana, His Excellency Francois Pouyoulard, says the economic viability of Africa is best assured if all trade barriers are removed.
Doing business in the ECOWAS region means strengthening the economic exchanges and economic integration process in the sub-region. So, as I would say, it's a diplomatic goal as well. We all can think of differences between countries of the West Africa, and those differences means also some hurdles that need to disappear to boost trade and investment in the sub-region. I would mention customs, I would mention linguistic barriers. I would also mention the fact that different currencies are used in the same sub-region, but opportunities are enormous.
Chief Executive Officer of the Association of Ghana Industries, Seth Chuma Kwabwa, outlined the available benefits and opportunities in Africa. He is confident of a unified African economy should the business community consider expanding their tentacles across the sub-region.
I think it's very important that as a business community or businesses in Ghana, we always have to explore various areas of opportunities, not just in Ghana, but within the ECOWAS. We are a strong believer in ECOWAS, and we strongly believe that if you take advantage of the market opportunities, you really do serious business.
The conference was organized as part of activities lined up to commemorate the 54th celebration of the African Union Day.
Meanwhile, Ghana is seeking to increase trade with South Africa, Africa's second biggest economy. Trade from Ghana to South Africa has dropped significantly over the last 3 years. It is now pegged at $7.4 million. A Ghanaian delegation is currently in South Africa on a trade mission organized by the Ghana-South Africa Business Chamber to explore business opportunities. CEO of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, Yofi Grant, who is part of the delegation, tells Joy Business there is the need to re-examine the approach to doing business with South Africa to close the trade deficit gap.
South Africa, as you know, is a well-developed industrial country, and their GDP is they are the second largest economy in Africa. And so they are a productive economy as against us, which has been a factor-driven economy for a while. We are now moving towards production and value added. But if you look at from 2011 to 2013, the South African business with Ghana increased by 56%. Investment into Ghana was, as at last year, was about $4.7 billion US. Whereas when we look at what Ghanaian businesses are doing here, it's about $150 million. But if you look at the trade from Ghana to South Africa, it's just about $7.4 million. Now, 3-4 years ago, it was a lot more. It was in the billion-dollar range. So we need to go back and understand what happened. That suddenly there was a significant drop. Some believe that when the GIPC suddenly increased or put in place capital limits, we saw a sudden disappearance in that. But we do have significant South African businesses in Ghana. There's on the retail side, there's ShopRite, there's Game. On the construction side, there's Atterbury, there's WBHO. The mining side, we've seen South Africans in mining from a very long time ago. So yes, they do actively look at our market, but now we are repositioning Ghana as the beachhead and entry point to West Africa, the West African trade zone, or ECOWAS. And I think for some businesses that I've spoken to who have found it pretty difficult to enter the Nigerian market, they believe that entering the Ghana market for West Africa is a more practical thing to do. So they are looking to come into Ghana and then form partnerships with our businesses so they can, for want of a better word, exploit the West African market. At the end of the day, we need to increase intra-Africa trade.
And in another development, head of EU delegation in Ghana, William Hanna, says despite a cut in financial aid to the country's budget, it is still monitoring government's macroeconomic policies. In a special interview with JoyNews to commemorate the AU at 54, he identified some factors that would help governments to deal with the issue of persistent budget deficits over the years. William Hanna also lauded the country's tax review policies as outlined in the 2017 budget statement.
Well, I think we've always followed very closely the macroeconomic policy. In the past, as you know, we had a lot of direct assistance to Ghana's budget, and so it was very important that if we did that, if we provided assistance through the budget, that the overall macroeconomic context would be a good one, would make sense. And we've been worried in the past about the big budget deficits in Ghana. So we continue to follow very closely the economic policies. I think one area which, well, maybe two areas I should mention. One is the need to increase domestic resource mobilization, to increase the amount of resources which are collected locally to replace the aid from the past. I mean, we know that a lot of resources leave Africa, leave Africa illegally. In fact, more resources leave Africa illegally than aid that comes to the whole of Africa. So there is a question about capturing more of the resources, making sure that more resources are raised locally so that you can reduce dependency on external assistance. And I've been struck by a number of the things that have been done in that area. One is certainly getting the tax regime correct, but another is the whole question of public resource management, public financial management, cutting down on the payroll, cutting down on the ghost workers, something which we have attached a lot of importance to.
Now, in other stories, former President John Agyekum is prevailing on investors across the globe to consider Ghana as a major business destination in Africa. According to him, Ghana is strategically positioned to afford them the opportunity to have easy access to the African market. He's been speaking ahead of the upcoming Aerospace and Aviation exhibition for Africa to be held in Ghana for the first time in October this year.
On the continent now, we have some countries that operate efficient airlines, like you can think of Ethiopia, you can talk of, to some extent, Kenya, but South Africa. But Ghana, even though we do not have a national airline now, Ghana has always been central. It's a crossroads for travelers, for airlines. And I believe this is why most of the European airlines fly here. It's a hub. Ghana is a hub. So you have people coming from the immediate region of West Africa, flying here to take the airlines to, say, Europe, and from here to the Middle East, from here even across the ocean to the United States of America. So when with this crossroads factor, I believe Accra could stage an international air show, because it's not the fact that you own an airline that should make for the qualification to stage a show. The fact that all these companies fly here, all these airlines fly here, and they crisscross here, is what should make this place the market to stage a show. But more importantly, is the way our airports, Accra airports, is being developed. It's been developed to a point now. I believe it provides the services for safe aviation, safety of flow for airlines. They needn't be our own airlines. Any company coming from east, west, north, south would want to stop in a place like our airport for refueling and rechandling to make passengers comfortable.
Let's now cross over to the Ashanti region, where the Crop Research Institute of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research is warning Ghana's narrow food base could threaten food security. Principal research scientist Dr. Emmanuel Otu says expanding the options is critical to avert potential crisis. Dr. Otu, who is head of Yam Improvement Program, was commenting on a successful release of 4 yam varieties by the Research Institute.
This is the yam section of the Kumasi Central Market, commonly known as Bode. Over 10,000 tons of yam arrive here every month. Akosia sells water yam, known in Akan as afasie or afase. She has been doing this job for 36 years. Akosia is supported by her family of 5. I sell 2 types of water yam, she says, akaba and matches. The akaba is a bit expensive. As for matches, 3 go for 10 Ghana cedis. Apart from water yam, other varieties go for 20 Ghana cedis for the same number of tubers. In times like this, it's difficult to purchase, particularly for low-income families. I pound it into fufu to feed the whole family.
200. How many piastres?
In 2008, Egypt was hit by food crisis as a result of inflation amid rising global cost of wheat. Riots in bread queues were a common sight. With maize, plantain, cassava and yam as major staples, Ghana is said to have a narrow food base. Dr. Emmanuel Otu is head of Yam Improvement Tuber Division at the Crop Research Institute.
The recent food crisis that occurred in the world some few years back, all the French countries around us had some form of civil agitation because the price of wheat was going up and the bread that they depend on was becoming more and more expensive. We were spared because we have a bit of plantain, we have a bit of cassava, a bit of yam, and all that to go around. But we need to expand this food base so that at all times we will be assured of our food security.
Ghana is the second leading exporter of yam in West Africa, behind Nigeria. Ghana mainly consumes 5 varieties of yam. 4 of the yam varieties originate from the sub-region, with only water yam coming from Asia.
And when it came, it was distributed using the matchbox. That is, if you can just cut it a small piece like a matchbox, and you can plant and still get your yield. So we often refer to it as matches.
Water yam is widely eaten across Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire and Mali. Scientists, however, say it is prone to anthracnose, a fungal disease which attacks many vegetable, fruit and even tree plants. The Crops Research Institute, in collaboration with International Institute for Tropical Agriculture, has for the past 10 years worked on developing improved varieties of water yam with support from West Africa Agriculture Productivity Program. 4 different types emerged, resistant to anthracnose and nematodes, high-yielding and enhanced taste.
The first of these material is afesibri, which is a purple-colored water yam. It yields as much as almost 44 tons per hectare, compared to the 23 tons of the matches. We have afasipa, which also yields almost 26 tons per hectare. We have CRI Soyinto, which in Gonja means good yield and taste. Also very high yielding, good taste, good aroma, and gives us almost twice the benefits that you get from matches. You realize that if you invest 1 cedi in matches, that's the one that we know already, you are going to reap about 16, almost 17 cedis out of that. After taking out your costs, getting your profits, the balance that will be left with respect to every cedi that you invest is 17 cedis. For the improved ones, the least that you can get is 24 cedis, and the maximum that you can get is 44 cedis.
Government has launched planting for food and jobs with a promise of improved seeds. Will such planting materials be of the same old crops or new types, or varieties will be introduced to guarantee food security? Joseph Faron is Ashanti Regional Director, Ministry of Food and Agriculture.
Because Ghana is part of the international community, some Ghanaians also want the best. So the ministry provides a basket of opportunities. One opportunity is that you can pick the seed from the country, that is the open pollinated varieties in country, and then you can plant it. But there's also an opportunity for our trade partners to bring in some other material for sale. So the issue is adoption. If the farmer adopts the material and plants it and does all the agronomic practices associated with it, definitely he will also get a very good yield.
And is that enough to ensure food security? Reporting for JoyNews, Kwesi Debra.
Still on Business Live. And the Union of Informal Workers Association, UNIWA, of the TUC, has noted with concern the lack of a retirement plan for most of its members. It is therefore setting out pragmatic steps to help address this issue. In this regard, People's Pension Trust has developed a pension scheme solely for members of UNIWA. The trustee says it is poised to revolutionize the pensions landscape in Ghana by providing retirement security for at least 500,000 Ghanaians in the informal sector. Now, joining me right here in the studio to talk more about informal sector issues and also why UNIWA is the CEO of People's Pension Trust, Samuel Waterbeck. Samuel, you're welcome to Business Live.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, so why the necessity for pension schemes for the informal sector in the first place?
Okay, thank you very much. If you look at Ghana, we have almost 40 million working population. Out of the 40 million working population, 12 million falls in the informal sector. And we know that out of the 12 million that falls in the informal sector, there's no pension schemes available. Currently, what you see in Ghana is that life expectancy is increasing. So we are all becoming much older. And as we become much older, we need money to take care of ourselves. In the past, we thought that our children would take care of us, but that's also changing. So what we have seen, not only in Ghana, is that a lot of people that have worked for 40 years, after they stop working, they fall into old age poverty. And this is what we want to do, because we see that a long chunk are in the informal sector without any pension scheme.
Now, you'd agree with me that dealing with the informal sector workers is quite difficult, and many people don't even think about the future. I mean, they think that, well, I earn money, my money I spent, and then tomorrow I'll get more. How easy is it to, deal with this class of people?
They do think about their future, but the issues are currently, they don't have a place where they can go to save for their pension. And often trust is an issue. We all know what has happened in the MFI world, so people are afraid to put their money aside. That's why we try to work with big organizations that are trustworthy. We are working with TUC UNIWA. TUC UNIWA have almost 81,000 people that are willing to save. But currently, they don't have the option to save. So through the partnership that we have with UNIWA, they can save with a trustworthy entity that is governed by MPRA. And at the same time, they know that TUC UNIWA is also supervising the pension scheme. So I believe that people really want to save. But the question is, who can they save with and who is trustworthy.
So how is it pension scheme going to work like the one with Uniwa?
So this is a pension scheme that we have designed solely for members of Uniwa. Uniwa currently, as I said, have 81,000 membership. So anyone that is registered with Uniwa can now come on board and be registered. After registration, you can then start to pay your pension. You can do it through mobile money, you can do it through a bank account, you can do it through one of our representative offices. And the beauty of it is that beside People's Pension Trust, Uniwa itself will also go around to educate these people about pension, because they have realized that it's quite important to have a pension, because like I said, we are all getting older, and a time will come that these people in the informal sector, they can't do the work they are doing anymore, and at that time they need money to cater for themselves.
Now, you'd agree with me that generally insurance penetration here in our country is quite low. So how do you mop up the rest of the population to actually join you? Do you only deal with groups, trade associations, or you also deal with individuals?
We also deal with individuals. The main thing is education, education, education. So before even we register someone, we'll go and explain the importance of pension. Because if you don't understand what you're doing, it'll be difficult to save consistently. So after explaining the importance of pension, people come on board, because if you talk to people in the informal sector, they are worried about their pension. A lot of people that I speak to say that, I have 2 kids, I'm a single mother, I don't know how I can take care of my kids if I'm not working anymore. So people are really thinking about the pension. So first what we do is that we give them the education. After that, we showcase that we are a trustworthy entity. So if you look at the people that we work with, so we work with parties like Uniwa. If you look at our board of directors that we have people that have earned that reputation. If you look at the partners that we support us, we have some of the largest pension companies in the world who are supporting us to provide these services. So people indeed will do their homework and they will examine us, and after that they will realize that they are dealing with a trustworthy party, and because of that they will come on board.
Aside pension schemes, you have other schemes or other investments?
So currently we are focusing on pension scheme, because that's what we think that is a niche market that is not touched, especially pension for the informal sector. In the future we might add other insurance product and investment onto it as well.
So finally, what's your advice for Ghanaian workers, informal sector?
So my advice is that if you look at the global trend, we are all getting older. A few years ago, people in Ghana will live to the age of 63. Currently it's almost 68, and in 5 years' time we'll be above 70. At the same time, we also realize that we can't depend on our children as it used to be. So now you have to start to put money aside. And the beauty about Tier 3 for the informal sector is that it doesn't matter how much you save. There's no minimum amount. So today, if you have 10 Ghana cedis, you can put aside. Tomorrow, if you have 100 Ghana cedis, you can put aside. And that money will be invested and given back to you at a time that you can't work anymore. And I think this is a message that everybody in the informal sector need to hear. Because we who are in the formal sector, at the end of the month, our employer will deduct automatically and give it to SNET. So when we go on retirement, we might receive pension. But 85% of the people in the informal sector, what are we doing with them?
So in case if you're dealing with an individual, person or worker who fails or who defaults in paying up its premium, how do you contact the person?
It's a voluntary pension scheme.
Okay.
So if you can't pay, no one will harass you. What we do is that we educate people and we teach them the importance of pension. And through our education, people tend to save consistently. So what we do is that through text messages, we try to educate people about importance. So if you see that you haven't saved for a month, someone will call you and try to motivate you to save.
Right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
Samuel Waterberg is CEO of People's Pension Trust, and he's been talking about pension schemes for informal sector workers. It's still on Business Life. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Business Live today.
Welcome back, and it's time for the interview of the day.
Interview of the day.
Forward with what is best for Ghana. So it will be up to us. He's already given 3 directives. There are other things to be done as we go ahead. And him being in charge of economic management team has assured Ghanaians that what we are looking for is what is best for Ghana, not therefore.
Yeah, but you keep mentioning that government will have to make a decision. Can you give us a gist?
I mean, because I gave an example of the way Gapoha and customs were misbehaving. In my view, misbehaving. That kind of attitude cannot be good for Ghana. And so if somebody thinks that we are there because they want to have a therefore, then they'll be dealt with. But, I mean, what is best for Ghana is what we should all be thinking about. How to facilitate trade and enhance revenue. If attitude is in the way, that person would have to change the attitude, or they will have to be removed.
Are we going to see GCNet or West Blue going?
No, well, it's premature to say that. I mean, I clearly, it's not everything that they are doing that one can say is duplication. So it's not an issue of one or the other. We must define what everybody is doing properly. And if there's duplication, let's discuss it and remove it. After all, we are all doing it for Ghana.
Interview of the day.
And it's been great having you on board this holiday edition of Business Life. Many thanks for watching, and I hope you did enjoy every aspect of the program. We come your way again with more stories tomorrow. My name is Emmanuel Apwachi. Good evening.